Hello, Future Bears. My name is Joshua Smith, and I'm a freshman at the University of Pikeville. In my final project for the UPike Survival Guide, I will be walking you through how to survive college with a learning disability. Did you know, according to the latest data from the 2017 guide provided by the National Center for Education Statistics, or the NCES, 11% of students self-reported having a learning disability. Enrollment stats also listed that 20.4 million students were expected to attend an American college or university, meaning 200,000 of these students have some sort of learning disability. This video will help you walk through your everyday life at UPike, meeting new and exciting people that will help you on your journey to succeeding whatever goal or major that you have in mind. And I hope that this video is very informative to you and that it is a guide that will help you along your way so that you won't have any stress uh, in your remaining years at the University of Pikeville. So I hope that you enjoy and have a pleasant day. Hello, my name is Joshua Smith. I'm here interviewing Kim Willard, who is the professor of the theater program at UPike University. Today I'll be asking her three distinct questions about my first year project, so let's get to it. Kim, should students speak to their professors about their learning disability, and how important is that?
It's really super important. In college, you're not identified the way that you are in high school. You may come up with accommodations through high school that are provided for you because your teachers and your family have worked together to do that. But when you get to college, it's really all on you. So if you don't speak to your professors or to the people who can make accommodations for you, you're stuck. You're not, no one's going to know what you need, and we aren't going to be able to tailor what happens to you in class and how assignments and tests are done if you don't communicate that with us. So it is super important.
Coming from experience, I have to say I agree that communication is a big part of this. Speaking of communication, how important is it for students with learning disabilities to have good working relationships with their professors and have a good communication with them as well?
I think communication is vital for students and professors just in general. But if you've got other things in the mix that are going to make it more difficult, possibly for you to get your assignments done or to learn the things that you need to be able to do in your coursework, it's really imperative that communication be established and early. You've got to advocate for yourself in college. You're adults. We expect you to come to us and tell us how we can help you more. And if you don't do that, then you just, you're kind of herded in with everyone else. And not that everybody isn't unique, but there's going to be kind of a general way things are done unless you speak up and say, hey, I could use these accommodations to be more successful. Can you work with me? And if you can't get it one-on-one speaking with your professor, then we have professionals on campus who are your advocates, like Kathy Pito, who you can go to, and they can create programs and implement them that the professors must follow. And that makes that possible for those programs, for your accommodations to be made without the professors having an option to not follow that. By and large, I would say at UPike, people are pretty accommodating as long as they know what the situation is. So the more you can let people know what you need, the better situation you will have.
I have to agree completely with that because I have to say that UPike has been extremely kind to me faculty-wise, and that I wouldn't be able to have my hair without some of them. So there's that. My final question is, what have you done to make your students with learning disabilities feel more comfortable in class?
It really is dependent on what the student needs. I've had students who are visually impaired, so I try to make sure that I use large fonts. I check the contrast if I'm using slides so that it's as big and as visually accessible as possible. had students with screen readers, so I provided transcripts that they can follow while we're going through slides, like on the screen or whatever. They can follow it at their seat. Extra time, extra office hours, extra conversations, the ability to text me if they have a question. Just, it really depends on what the student needs. Sometimes that it's just as simple as making sure that they know that I know that they're struggling a little bit more and they need maybe an extra little push or an extra little pat on the back or an extra, hour of time to just chat about how it's going or what their study skills should look like to make it work.
I have to agree. I have to say also that the biggest thing with me in class, not yours, but in classes in general, has been note taking. Some professors have a very odd way of taking notes, and that's why I have to request that I get their notes. That way, if there's a test, I know what to study. So I think it's extremely important for teachers and students to have a great working relationship, because if they don't, then that student could fail, and then what are you going to do? I mean,
Exactly. And there's so many bright students who are just being held back a tiny bit by something that's easy to accommodate.
Well, thank you so much, Kim, for speaking with me on this matter. I had a great time speaking with you, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm speaking with Miranda Gallagher, first-year student at UPike University. Today, I will be interviewing her about what it's like to go through college life with a learning disability. Hello, Miranda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking. I have a few questions for you, and let's get started if that's okay.
That's good.
All right. First question. How do you balance school assignments and work while dealing with a learning disability?
So I'm fortunate enough to have a really good boss. He lets me prioritize my school assignments. So what I do at the beginning of every week is I look at all of my assignments. I figure out how long it's going to take for each of those assignments, and I schedule out that time, and then I just schedule work around that. And something that's like really important because of that is because with my learning disability, it takes me about twice as long as it would somebody else to do a certain assignment. So I just have to schedule out that time and set aside that time for my schoolwork and then schedule work.
That's good that he allows that kind of time for you. Most bosses are not like that, so it's good that he's flexible like that. My second question for you is, do you have any tips for other students on how to manage both?
So my biggest tip would just be to figure out how long it takes you to do something. And it might sound tedious, but if you do an assignment and you time yourself and you don't try to rush and you don't do it really slow or anything like that, then you figure out how long you need to actually set aside for a certain assignment. Because I know for my classes, almost every week is the same for each individual class. So I'll have a quiz, I'll have a discussion question, I'll have a test maybe, and I know that it'll take me about 45 to an hour to do the discussion question. I set aside that time, and I do that every week, and then around that, I schedule in work. And then it's also amazing to communicate with your boss and like with your teachers. Let them know what's going on. And even if you don't want to say, hey, I have a learning disability, you can always be like, it takes me a little bit longer to do this sort of assignment. So is there a way that you can help me even schedule this? Is there a way that you can help me schedule for Monday? I'll get all my work done. And then for the rest of the week, I'll do the little assignments that don't take me as long, and I'll work more on those days. It's just really good to have good communication with everybody.
I agree completely with that, actually. My final question for you is, what advice would you give to the first-year students who attend UPike with a learning disability?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's literally the biggest thing. And it sounds so simple and so easy to just deal with. But I know that when I first came here, I stood in the middle of campus for a good 20 minutes, not knowing where anything was, and refused to ask for help. Did not make it to my first class, and And I mean, that is because of my learning disability. That's because I can't remember where things are. I can't remember where certain classes are. I get everything mixed up. I mean, it's hard to deal with, but if I would have just stood there, turned to somebody and asked, where's this class, I would have made it. So don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not like like, it's not like if I would have asked for help, they would have been like, why are you talking to me? They're gonna help if they know where it is. People aren't that mean in the real world. They're just not. And even people that don't have learning disabilities, they need help too. Everybody needs help, at least sometimes. So don't feel like just because you have a learning disability that that's what's making you ask for help. Everybody needs help sometimes, and just don't be afraid to ask for it.
I know when I was in the same situation, I actually came to school an hour and a half early just so I didn't have to ask for anybody to show me where something was when I was trying to find it myself. I still ended up needing to ask someone to show me where the class was at. So I can understand completely with that. So Miranda, thank you for being my interviewee, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm speaking with Cecil Williams, who is a part of the project coordinator program in ACE at UPike. I will be sitting and talking with him about what he does in the ACE program and what it is like for students who go to college and living with a learning disability. So Cecil, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. I'm going to start off with a few questions, if that's okay.
Okay.
All right. Question one will be, how important is it for students with a diagnosed learning disability to speak up to their professors when they attend college?
I think it's vitally important. I think it's really a game changer for them. In my 20 years at UPike, I've known students who have came to college with a diagnosed learning disability who sought out accommodations, spoke to their professors, and did very well. And then I also had students who have been diagnosed with a learning disability who chose not to disclose that information to the professors, and they really struggled. I have found that the professors, especially at UPike, are very willing and able to help them through whatever accommodations they've been given based on the type of learning disability that they have.
I have to strongly agree with that. The teachers and the professors at UPike are very helpful once they know that you have, I don't want to call it a crutch, but an issue that you can't help, that they are more than willing to help you with. So thank you for that. Second question is, what can the ACE program do with the students at UPike with a learning disability? That's part one. And the next part is there any programs besides ACE that can help students with a learning disability?
Okay, I'll start with the part two first. We coordinate our services with the Disability Resource Coordinator Office, which is Kathy Pito. And because we coordinate our services, where she is just an office of one, we are able to coordinate with her. And if our ACE students have a disability, then they are, we sometimes help her in setting up testing for those students if she already has another student and she can't do both, and if they're in the ACE program, then we're able to help do the testing for them down in our office. We've also coordinated, once we get any ACE student who is in the ACE program who has disclosed that they have services through the Disability Resource Office, then we will get a list of those accommodations as well. And so we're aware when they come in and let's say they have an academic issue or a grade that's low and they come in seeking academic help, then we have all the pieces to the puzzle, so we know that there is a learning disability there, so we can tailor our services to meet the needs of the student based on their accommodations and what their learning disability is.
That's really good. That's a good thing that UPike has those programs. We'll go back to the part one of this question that way. What can the ACE program do for the students at UPike with a learning disability?
Well, once again, we are just a coordinated effort with the other offices on campus. And when a student comes to us with a learning disability, depending on what that is, like I said before, we can tailor our services to meet them. When we're working with them, if we know that, let's say, okay, we've had students before that's had a visual impairment. So when we're working with them, we make sure that we have the necessary tools that if we need them to see anything that, what we're working with them has been magnified so that they can view it, that it's comfortable for them, that it's not another obstacle they're going to have to overcome. So depending on, like I said, the learning disability, the type of accommodations, then we just tailor our services to meet the needs of those students when they come in, regardless if it's an academic issue, if it's a social issue, a mental health issue, regardless of what the issue is, knowing what that learning disability is and the accommodations they receive helps us just make sure that that continuity of services continue.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, what advice would you give to the first year students who attend UPike with a learning disability? What advice would you give them?
I think the best advice I could give them is to be your own advocate. I realize that especially first year students coming to college are coming normally, unless they are a non-traditional student, are coming right out of a high school situation. And in high school, a lot of times a learning disability may be looked at negatively. They may have been singled out, maybe have been made fun of, or, not treated so nicely based on knowledge of that disability. So a lot of students are afraid to disclose that when they come to college. But I would just like to reassure them, especially at UPike, that disclosing that information is looked at completely different at the college level. It is you are totally in control. You get to choose who knows this information and how it can be used. So just because you may have let's say your learning disability is dyslexia, it may just be in the courses where it requires a lot of reading that you may need the accommodations. So you don't have to tell your math professor, I have a learning disability. Not everyone, only the people on campus are going to know are the ones that you have chosen to inform. And by informing those people, you are giving yourself a step ahead of knowing, of being an advocate for yourself, of saying, this is my reality. This is what I need in order to make this a level playing field for me. Discussing that with your professor and making sure that you get the accommodations that are required for you. Doing this is going to empower the student. It's going to let them know that they are in charge of their education and that that the power lies with them. It's not in some office on campus that's going to, inform everyone. And it's not a paper that we just fill out just to say, we met some legal guideline. It's actually there to help you to make sure that you get what you need.
I strongly agree with that. I have to say that UPike and the ACE program and Kathy Pito have welcomed myself, who also has a learning disability, with open arms and care, and they actually want you to succeed in there. You all have done nothing but help me along this journey so far, and I look forward to continuing that journey with you all. So thank
Great.
you
You're
for
welcome.
allowing me to interview you, and I hope you have a good day.
You have a good day too. Thanks.
Hello, I'm here with Kathy Pito for she is the coordinator of the Disability Resource Center at UPike University. Hello, Kathy, how are you?
I'm doing well today, Josh. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you for asking. I will be interviewing you today for my first year project, and I will be asking a couple of questions. Is that okay?
That's perfectly all right.
All righty, well, let's get started. The first question is what does your office, which is the Disability Resource Center, offer students with a learning disability, and can you explain what your department does?
Well, basically, the Disability Resource Center is here to help students eliminate some barriers to their education. In K through 12, there was, under the IDEA law, students were given, were actually guaranteed success. And that was basically taken care of by the responsibility was totally on the teachers and the parents. At college, that's quite a bit different. Now, the student must self-declare that they have a disability or they have a need to determine if there is a disability with the Office of the Disability Resource Center. That's the only official way for them to get accommodations. Some of the accommodations that we can offer, some flexibility, maybe in attendance or deadlines, especially when it has to do with a medical chronic condition or an acute problem or temporary problem. We also can give extended time for tests, a separate location for testing to help take care of the distractions. We also can offer the student a reader if there is difficulty with reading or a slowness of reading. Maybe the student has dyslexia. A student may have other learning disabilities such as dysgraphia, which would have them not be able to put things down on paper. They might be able to answer the questions orally beautifully, but when they try to put it down, that doesn't work. So also a scribe, so a reader or scribe for testing. Access to notes ahead of time, maybe a different format for their materials. Right now, everyone has the electronic format as it is. So I don't have as much of that request right now. Also, we give referrals for counseling, tutoring to Kentucky Office of Vocational Rehabilitation to help with starting process if they don't have documentation, because that is part of what I can base an accommodation on is accurate diagnostic documentation of the disorder. Okay. There can be housing issues. Someone may need to have an accommodation in housing, an accommodation with their diet, with the cafeteria. There might be some students have had to have a service animal on campus, or even emotional support animals. A lot of the emotional support actually goes through student services now rather than this office, but a student could also explain it to me or present it to me, and then I could get them to the correct person. Okay. Any other thing you wanted me to include, or something that you have a question for me about concerning that?
Actually, no, you pretty much covered everything for that first question, so we'll just go on to the second one.
That sounds wonderful.
What steps do the students need to take to obtain these services?
Well, as we said before, the main thing is the student must be a self-advocate for themselves by disclosing the disability or the need to Disability Resource Center. Once that takes place, I will let the student know the kind of information that we need so they can be gathering it. Usually the documentation that we're looking for needs to be current within the last 3 years, and sometimes even more so, but I can determine that with them later after I see it. It needs to include a diagnosis of a disability with limitations that are hampering their education experience. It needs to be from someone who is licensed to make that diagnosis. Okay? So when I look over that, it might be in the form of a letter from a physician. It may be psychological evaluation that has been done within the last 3 years. Can also be an IEP or an ILP from high school or a 504 plan. And then any kind of prior record of accommodations, maybe at another college. An accommodation letter from a previous college or something like that. All those things can be used together along with just an interactive discussion with the student after that is available to go over everything, try to find out what things have worked for them in the past and what things have not. If they have no documentation at all, then I will refer them to someone who can help them. And usually it is through Kentucky Voc Rehab, because they have the avenue to get to help the student and also to take care of part of the burden of the cost as well. Once the student has disclosed, provided documentation, and had a discussion with a person from Disability Resource Center. At the time, I'm the only person here, so I'm the one they'll have the conversation with. We will agree on what those accommodations will be. I may have something in mind, and I will just kind of read out all the things that I have in mind that can be used. Student has a right to accept those, reject them, or ask for them to be changed and modified in some way. Okay? The student really is in control about what their accommodations are. So it's very much an interactive program. If the process doesn't have a face-to-face or a one-on-one in some way, it really is not legitimate in my opinion. Okay.
All right.
After that time, a letter will be fixed, will be sent to the student. The student will then be responsible for distributing those to their faculty, any support staff that they feel needed, and that sort of thing.
Before I was speaking to you, I was speaking to some other faculty members, and they all agree, and it sounds like you agree too, that it is very important for students and faculty members to have a great communication relationship. That way they can help you and they can help themselves. It's
That's
very
exactly
important.
right.
No one can read your mind, obviously. So if you know you have a problem, don't be afraid to ask. So it's wonderful that that's what all of you all believe, because I think that's extremely important in situations like this. My final question is, what financial programs are available for students with learning disabilities to help with their tuition and other fees while attending UPike?
Okay, specifically for students with disabilities, there is not at this time a scholarship that is specifically for students with disabilities at the University of Pikeville. However, those students who participate and work with the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation can possibly get scholarship or money for their tuition or their books or something along the way. Right now, I know that the fact that we have gone to online books has caused a problem. However, I know that that OVR is aware of that, and they are trying to work very hard to try to make it helpful to you as far as finances are concerned as well. You can find several things online, and I know there were two that I had checked on before. So I have one that is called the scholarshipsystem.com. All one word, okay? The scholarshipsystem.com. And the second one was learnhowtobecome.org. Both of those have some wonderful things that students can go to, get some ideas, and from there it can branch out to maybe find some other information about scholarships that are available.
That's actually extremely helpful, including for myself too. So I can only imagine what that could do for a future bear. So thank you for
Right.
that. Well, Miss Kathy, I thank you first of all for answering my questions, and thank you for being my interviewee. It meant a great deal to me, and I hope that you have a lovely day during what no one's going to know this but us, but the pandemic. So it's going to be nothing to the people who watch this years later, probably, but to us, we're going through some stuff. So thank you for answering all my questions, and I hope you have a lovely day.
Well, you have a blessed day as well.
Thank you. I hope that you enjoyed listening to wonderful people help you on your journey to surviving school with a learning disability. Just remember that you can do anything that you set your mind to. That this disability is not a crutch. Just because that you have a different way of learning doesn't make you less important, less special, and a failure in life. What you can do is challenge it, push forward, and succeed any obstacle that you put your mind to. If you can remember those things, you will survive college, and hopefully you will succeed your dream. Have a pleasant day.